Welcome back to How Soccer Explains Leadership. Thanks again for being a part of the conversation. I'm Phil Dark, your host. With me is my brother, Paul Jobson. Paul, how you doing, man? It's been a while.
Yeah, man, it has. Happy New Year at this point. But no, it's been great. I'm in a little bit for different location today. My neighbor decided to do some tree trimming today. So there's buzz saws and tree trimming being done outside of my office. So a little bit different location. For me, not that anybody probably knows or cares or is even watching, but no, man, it's been a
Probably
good
not.
break. Yeah, probably not, but good break.
Okay.
Uh, it's always a good break when you know you're ready to get back to work. To me, that's a sign where you're like, okay, this has been a great break. It's been awesome. Let's get back into the rhythms of sports and school and work and all that. So it's been a great break, but ready to get back at it, man. The kids are already offloaded into basketball and soccer, and we're just full throttle now, man. How about you guys?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, actually, it's funny you say that because one of the things we did over break is my son has a little, band, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's him and his buddy. They played soccer together. Now they're playing guitar together and banjo and all kinds of stuff, cool stuff. But they have a song called Rhythms of Life. So you saying that reminded me of one of the things we got to do. They had their first gig, like an actual gig over the break, and it was cool. It was good. It was fun. They're having a blast and getting some good feedback, and that's been a good time. But it's been crazy. Lots of people in our house, lots of fun, lots of got the entire all the kids, so already that's a lot. And then they're,
Yeah.
one's married, and then they brought a friend, and then they had other friends. And one time around our table, we had, a guy from Brazil, a girl, like another friend of theirs from Wisconsin. We had, Drew's buddy from childhood. We're all playing cards, and it was like we had the, United Nations at our table. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Um, so not that Wisconsin's a different country, but it kind of seems like it
Ki-
sometimes,
It, it kind
so.
of it kind of is. No offense,
Yeah.
Wisconsinites, you cheeseheads.
So anyway, it's been really good, but I'm really excited, always to come back after we had Wells Thompson recast just as a honor to our buddy,
It's
and
a
he
good
was
one.
up there on both of our lists, and also the most downloaded of our newer episodes last year. So that was pretty cool. But
Yeah.
today we have another friend, good friend. We've been able to become friends over the last few years through the global sport movement, North American sport movement. But we got Thuy Williams. Thuy, how you doing today?
Good. Very good. It's nice to be here.
I was gonna say a woman, a few words, but you kind of proved it right there. You kind of proved it right there. That's good. That's good. No, but she's good. I'm excited for this because I know you've done a lot of really cool things and are doing a lot of really cool things all around the world, and some of them relate to soccer, lacrosse, some other things. But I know you're just making a lot of impact. So I just love to hear. We always just love to start with story. And if you just kind of briefly share your story, although I hesitate to say briefly because then it might be briefer than I want. I want you to kind of expand a little bit. But how you develop your passion for soccer, how you develop your passion for lacrosse and coaching and leadership and just ministry and how you got to be where you are today.
Okay. I'm originally from Vietnam. Came out on Operation Babylift in 1975. For those that don't know what that is, that was a thing that the U.S. put together to try to save children like me, which they're considered Amerasian. So children of U.S. military members and Vietnamese mothers. And so about 3,500 of us were rescued through Operation Babylift and brought to the U.S., adopted here. I was adopted in Portland, in a white family with in a white neighborhood, probably the whitest neighborhood of Portland at the time. And so,
Oh,
my first memories are bombs and death and things like that. And so, I had some real anger issues, growing up. And so, my parents were expecting a 6-month old, and they got a 5-year-old. So, during that time, there wasn't a lot of like counseling and things like that for adopted parents. You just kind of they dropped them off and took off, and so adjustment for both sides was pretty rough. My parents tried things like ballet and tap dancing and gymnastics and yeah. So anybody who knows me knows those were really bad choices. Um, and then when I was around 8, one of my friends' dads was going to coach her soccer team and invited me to play. I scored my first game, and that was it for me, you know. So soccer became my passion. Um, I just loved soccer. It was my outlet for, you know, all the emotions that at that time I didn't understand. I had some issues in school as far as fighting, you know, lashing out at other kids, things like that. And so um, I had a bad reputation by the time I got to high school. I made varsity as a freshman. The coach came to me and was like, I know your reputation. If you want to stay on this team, you can't fight on, you know, on school campus. If we are caught, you're off the team. And soccer was more important to me than fighting at that time. So fighting went off school campus, and so it didn't stop. It just moved locations. And so I kept fighting, but made the junior World Cup team as a sophomore. As a junior, scored the goal to get us into the state championships, uh, you know, and things like that. So growing up, I didn't think I was a very smart person. So I didn't feel like I could do college. Like I thought I would slunk. And so one of the things that had always been in the back of my mind was to serve in the military. You know, I, I'm honored to have been adopted here and raised here and given so many opportunities. And so I wanted to at least serve for a little while. And so I joined the military, did 8 years total as a tank mechanic and master fitness trainer, which meant I was in charge of unit fitness. Came out of that a real mess, like emotional mess. I had some really bad experiences in the military, and it just really, you know, that anger was even worse than before. When I came back, I met this couple who were missionaries to Kenya. Miriam is Kenyan, and Jack grew up in Portland. They met on the mission field in Kenya, fell in love, and were back on furlough. And Miriam, for some reason, liked me. Knowing who I was at that time, I still can't believe like she liked me. And they're with the Navigators, and they believe in, you know, friendship, evangelism, and discipleship, and coming alongside people and being part of their lives. And I really screwed up my life, so I was gonna be on the street basically. And so Miriam and Jack invited me to come live with them, and I was like, I hate Christians. Like at that time, I really hated Christians. I'd had some horrible experiences with Christians in the military, and hypocrites, you know, they go to church on Sunday and were sleeping with their friends' wives and husbands the next day, you know, kind of thing. And just what I saw in the military was just really bad as far as Christians. And so she just kept asking me, yeah, just come live with us. You know, there's no pressure. So I finally had the choice of doing that or being on the street. So I chose the lesser of two evils. And over the next 2 years, I saw who Christ was in a different way, saw who God was in a different way, saw marriage and Christianity in a different way, like lived out. You know, they have one of those marriages that you hope you have one day. You know, they treat people so well. They, you know, they were really the first people that tell me they were proud of me. And it was like, what? Like, you're proud of me? And so over the next 2 years, just their life showed me who Christ was, and I became a Christian because of them. Following year, they went back to Kenya. I went to visit and fell in love. Like, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. I don't want to stay here. I want to be a missionary, but I didn't go to college. I had no skills except being a tank mechanic. I was like, okay, Lord, that I can't be a tank mechanic as a missionary. And so I was just like, what am I going to do? So I went home just kind of discouraged and thinking like I have no skills to give to God. And at that time my job was to watch TV news and record it and report on it. And one day there was a story about this guy in Portland who went to Kenya all the time using soccer to tell people about God. And I was like, well, I can do that. I played all through my military career and was still playing. And I was like, I can totally do that. But it was the days of yellow pages and I couldn't find the guy at all. Like everywhere I looked, I couldn't find this guy. And so about 2 weeks later, I come into work and my boss throws me this envelope and she's like, here, you want to go back to Kenya? And I was like, sure. So this guy had bought the piece that he was in and put a brochure in the envelope with his check. In 98, I made my first trip to Kenya as a sports ministry person. And the following year I was full-time ministry doing sports. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And since then, you've like just kind of give like a brief rundown, and we'll get into the details of some of the stuff that you've been doing, but just kind of give a brief rundown for people like of since then you've done stuff outside, not just in Kenya, but all over the world, right?
Yeah. So I've done all over the world. So I do soccer, track, and lacrosse worldwide. And I was a team manager and coach for the Uganda national team for lacrosse. I'm currently on the board for the South Africa Lacrosse Association. Right now, we are on track to take the team to the Africa Cups this December. And if we win that, we have the chance to represent Africa in the 2028 Olympics. So we're super excited about that. I am on staff with the U.S. women's national team for amputee soccer. We went to the first Women's World Cup and took second place. So that was super amazing. I coach locally track at the local high school and junior high school, Gaston High School. Yeah, I think that's it right this moment.
That's it. That's it. Wow. Well, I'm proud of you too, Thuy. So I don't know if that means anything to you, but I definitely am proud to be your friend. So thanks for sharing all that. I just love hearing that story, and every time I learned some new little nuggets in there too. But just every time I hear that, I just always blown away by how God finds us and uses us in the ways that he can and he wants to. And I just love that you've said yes. So yeah, just love it. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, and with that, and just how you're continuing to impact others through everything that you're doing and the lives that you're impacting. And with that in mind, what would you say is your why? What is your life purpose, and how are you living that out?
So when I was in the military, I got a degenerative muscle bone disease, basically. And it's basically breaking down both. So I'm usually in quite a bit of pain. And when I was 30, the doctor told me I needed to just go to bed and take pain pills for the rest of my life and get on disability, and I would die. I'm going to die from this. And I would say 95% of the people that have what I have passed. And then most of the rest are in bed. So I'm like one of the only people that's still walking. And so at that point, I had to decide for myself what I wanted for my life. And so I told the doctor that, God has a plan for my life until he takes me home. I'm going to keep trucking along. So I think, my life verse is where Paul says, I'm gonna keep going till the end. Like he talks about just, hardships and this and that, but God will take him home when he's ready, and that's my why. So I had to decide at that time, do I continue? Do I go to bed like the doctor says? Do I modify my life? What do I do? And I very much felt that God was like, no, Paul talks about he had a thorn in the side, and, there's lots of speculation on what it was, but he was stoned. I'm sure he had some really bad muscle and bone problems that, we can't even think about. And so, I just decided that I'm going to keep going, really, until the moment that God takes me, I'm going to push through, because God has a plan for me, and he's always going to keep me doing that plan. 2, I want to make my friends and family proud. And 3, there are athletes that need me. And so I get up every day because of those athletes. And so those are my 3 whys. And some days I have to sit there and remind myself of those 3 whys. But, we just have to keep going, and technically I was given 5 years, and that was, 5 years ended 3 years ago. So you never know what God's going to do. You never know when your time is going to be. And if I had stopped when I was 30, that was 25 years ago. And so, and it seems like every year God brings more. It hasn't slowed down. Like last year was insanity for me. I was home like 2 weeks at a time last year. I was everywhere last year. And so if you allow God to use you, he will use you. And we have to just be open to that, and there are bad days where my pain levels are at 10. There's days where getting out of bed is not on my agenda. You have to keep your whys.
I love that. I mean, what an amazing testimony to just listening to God, and not to, I hate to say, don't listen to your doctors, but I think there's a balance there, right? And just how you really just leaned in to say, hey, God, what do you want here? And, you said, 25 years later from that doctor's appointment, what he's been able to do through you. And I'm sure as a coach, you probably don't lean very well towards laziness and excuses from athletes, do you?
I struggle with that one.
I love it. I love it. Love to hear more. You do so many different things. I know we're going to dive into all these different, maybe not all of them, as many as we can, at least in the time that we have. But really want to dive into the all abilities athletes that you work with. I was first introduced to all abilities. We do some work in Guatemala. We had an opportunity to work with the Guatemalan national team, men's national team. It was the first time I was introduced to all abilities and what that was, and just some of the amazing stories that these people have. But tell us a little bit about, all abilities, what it is. Some people may not know what that means, and how you've impacted that, or how you work with that, and how that's kind of intertwined with the global sports movement, et cetera. Just take us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So I had never heard of all ability either. And 3 years ago, we had a guy come from England and speak at the conference on all ability. And I was like, I've been a coach since 98. What is all ability? So sports are in 2 categories. You have the able-bodied, which are, you can do anything. You have all your limbs, you have your mental capacities, all that kind of things. All ability is you might have a limb difference, or it's anything that doesn't put you on a regular team. So you can have mental deficiency, you can have limb deficiency. So, and there's so many different sports. I coach and ref power soccer, which is wheelchair soccer. So they have a massive, huge ball, and then the power wheelchairs have this bar across the front, and you hit the soccer ball with the bar, and that's how you play. And so that's for people who maybe aren't in wheelchairs permanently, or there's a lot of them that can only use their finger to move the wheelchair, but they're out there playing soccer. Um, I also ref and coach amputee soccer. So amputee soccer it's played on crutches, and so if you have a leg difference, you're a field player. So you can have 1 inch difference in your leg and be able to play on the field. If you have uh, a deformity or limb difference in an arm, then you can be a goalie. So, and they don't interchange very much. So the goalies have to, if they have any, it's called a residual limb. So if your limb goes to here, then this is your residual, and that has to be taped to your body underneath your shirt. So you can only use one arm. So that's how amputee soccer is played. And it's, to me, the closest to regular soccer of any of the sports. Well, blind soccer is also, but there's differences as far as, obviously being blind, but the ball has a bell in it. And so, and then you have people that are like, when you go to a blind soccer game, it's completely quiet. Like the fans are not allowed to say anything because the players have to be able to hear the ball. And so it's quite interesting because the only people that can talk are the coaches, and then the behind the goalies, there's someone that's speaking. So otherwise it's completely quiet. So it's quite fascinating. I've helped with CP soccer. I've helped with Down syndrome soccer. I've helped with dwarf soccer. So there's all these different things. There's wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby, which is brutal. Like there's always blood.
Drug bait. It's heavy blood.
A crazy game. But there's all these things now that are available to all ability things, and I think it's amazing. One of the things I really love about all ability sports is that the families are much more involved, because especially like power soccer, where a lot of them can't get in and out of their wheelchair, so their families are very involved in that, and so you can have a little bit more of an impact on not just the athlete but the families also, and that's really cool.
Yeah, the group we worked with in Guatemala was actually the amputee team in Guatemala, and it was amazing. And you mentioned it a little bit, just what qualifies for field player and goalkeeper. And at first, I'm like, okay, the goalkeeper doesn't have an arm, and you're like, okay, that's odd. I mean, goalkeepers use their hands; they're only position on the field they can use their hands, and he only had one hand.
Right.
And what he was able to do was amazing. I mean, he had his feet, and he was crazy. And the probably the most fun part of the whole thing, well, not really, the stories were amazing. How these men, some men were born without limbs, and some through tragedy lost limbs, and just their stories and were great. But one of the guys, after the game was over, he went over to he was missing a leg, so he took his crutches, put them on the side, put his prosthetic leg on, and then went out to play in his prosthetic. And he was amazing with his prosthetic, but because of amputee, he wasn't allowed to play with his prosthetic. He had to use crutches. I'm like, this is just amazing. And the other athletes we had with us that were watching this, again, the whole, what excuse are you making for not playing right now? But how have you seen, just through maybe some of those experiences? I mean, how have you seen kind of God work through those interactions with some of those athletes and some of the work that you've been doing?
Well, I've helped, I've done clinics in Kenya, in different places. And, to me, those athletes epitomize like perseverance. And they are my heroes. Like the US team, they're amazing. Like, I am always in awe of them. That we've got, like Q, who's like, she lost her leg to cancer, and but is playing, I think, like 5 different sports. She's in wheelchair basketball. That I don't even know what she just took up weightlifting. If she can do it, she does it. She just amazes me, and she's like one of those people that motivates others. She's a firecracker, and she motivates me. Like, she gets me going, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let you do this, whatever it is. She can, those, yeah, she just amazes me. Or Sarah, who used to be, she was the captain of our team, and she was a captain in the military when she, in the army, when she found out she had cancer and lost her leg. But it didn't, you know, you lose your military career, you lose, your leg, but he motivates. She's one of those quiet leaders. Like, she's not out there and in your face, but she just motivates that team. She's just quiet and military, but I don't know. You have Melissa, who, was on our team, and she's now battling cancer again. She lost her leg to cancer. Or Christina, who again is battling, health issues from, originally losing her leg. And they're persevering, and they're upbeat and joyful and encouraging other people in the midst of, hospital visits and doctors, and, raising their families. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know how you guys do it.
Yeah.
I just met Max. He's a special forces Ukrainian soldier who was hit by an IED and lost his sight, and is going through massive skin grafts at Walter Reed. And I met him a couple months ago at a clinic, and we were able to find a blind soccer ball for him. And I got to spend some time just teaching him the basics of blind soccer. And he must have been like a really good regular soccer player, because he caught on to blind soccer immediately. Like, he was hitting them. I was like, holy cow. But his plan is to go back to Ukraine when he's better, and start his own blind soccer team. Like, he's still in the hospital. They're just amazing. And they're not amazing because they lost a limb or whatever. I think they were probably amazing before then, and they just have overcome what's going on in their lives to impact others. And that's, that I think those are the people that motivate you to be better.
Probably, I mean, I can say for myself, had I not been exposed to it the way that I was, I would not have known much about it. And it was saying that, and how hard it is to explain what it's really like, I think is a great opportunity maybe to plug. How would people maybe research that and find an opportunity to plug in a community? Is there a certain site or a certain way that people could plug into that?
When I heard about All Ability, and at the conference, I asked the guy. I was like, well, I'd never even heard, I told him I never even heard of this. Like, this is amazing. This is so much fun. How do I get involved? And he's like, just go home and look up, an organization in your area that's doing something with All Ability, and contact them and see what you can do to volunteer. And I was like, oh, I can do that. So I did that. And within a month, I was coaching power soccer. And then from there, I was doing amputee soccer, and, blind soccer, and, goal ball. And, so just look up what organizations in your area are doing something, and join them.
Love it. Yeah. I think it seems so simple, and it is. It's like with the internet, it's a lot easier than the yellow pages, as you were talking about earlier. I think about that all the time. Like, how did we do stuff back in the day? But again, it's, when God wants you involved with something, you'll be involved with it. So if you want to be, like, there's no excuse. It's kind of like you're talking about, if, with all the other excuses there's always going to be an excuse not to do something. But if you really want to, there's so many things going on right now. And I know just where we are in Folsom, there's so many things. I have a good friend that runs an organization that's working with that, and another buddy who's starting up some camps and doing different things. There are things going on wherever you are. Encourage you if there's something, even if it's not something like that you want to do all the time. I strongly encourage you to go check it out. It is unbelievable to see. Even Thuy did a breakout at, when you did the breakout at the North American Sport Movement Conference, like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and just going out and experiencing blind soccer, with a headband or a bandana on your eye. It was extremely frustrating. Let's put it that way. I didn't like it very much, but then to think like these are people's existence, and they not only are making the most of it, but they're thriving in it. And it's so amazing to see that. Like, again, we have no excuses to not do things that God has us to do. We just got to make it happen. So, man, there's so much more. We all, with this, Paul and I are always like, man, we want to go for hours on talking about all these different things. But I encourage you folks. I mean, we'll have, you can get a hold of Thuy if you want to get a hold of Thuy to talk more about this. And, we have a friend who's an amputee, and we're trying to get her to do the World Cup stuff because she was a soccer player, but we haven't done it yet. Breezy, if you're listening, which you probably aren't.
Come on, girl.
Still there. Let's make this happen.
We have tryouts for the next events.
There you go. And I mean, the thing is, like, you're gonna have, like you're talking about with the might be going for lacrosse, obviously, to the 28 Olympics, but like the Paralympics, all these different things are. There's so many more sports that are happening now too, and it's what an incredible opportunity to be able to do those things. So, let's kind of go back to you, and you're back to your athletic career. You can kind of take it into coaching or some things like that too if you want, but. I'd like to hear just kind of what was a defining moment in your career as an athlete, and why was it so impactful? What'd you learn from it?
As an athlete,
or could be as if you want to take that into something else. But we'd like to see just defining moment as when you were playing, or could have been what some coach said, something happened to you, whatever. If you have one, and then if you're using that today in some way.
I don't know if I had a defining. I probably just scoring that first goal was the defining moment. That changed my life. I would say if I hadn't had soccer all these years, I wouldn't be where I am today. I mean, I probably wouldn't be alive. I probably would have ended up in jail and destroyed my life. It gave me a focus other than the pain that I was in that I didn't even realize about, last year was the 50th anniversary of Operation Babylift. And so we've had, the group of us have had lots of conversations about how did we overcome what we saw and what we dealt with. And one of the things that we've talked about is we had PTSD as kids before they knew what PTSD was. And so growing up with PTSD and not having a name for what we were feeling until we were, way older, way into adulthood, how did we cope with it? For me, it was soccer. Like that was my outlet. And other than accepting Jesus, as an adult, that was what saved my life. And still, and that's where, that's why I love to coach, between Miriam and Jack and my friend Jody, who forced me to go through a healing, program to really let go of, my childhood, and Kaiser, who just lets me be who I am. It's the people in your life other than sports that bring you to the next level, right? They're the ones that save your life. And so that's what I feel the coaching is for me. I'm there to hopefully save someone's life, through sport, because sport, Nelson Mandela is one of my heroes as far as, some of the things that he did obviously in his life, but he said sport changes life and it transcends everything, and it does. You take out a soccer ball, it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to see smiles. You can be, I've been in refugee camps in different parts of the world, and bring out a soccer ball and those kids light up, being hungry, being homeless, being, all those things that they're dealing with, their traumas and stuff, it goes away for a little while when you bring out that soccer ball. And that's what it is for me. Like, I pick up a soccer ball and I'm like, okay, I might not be able to play anymore, but I love that soccer ball. It just brings a smile to my face. It's like, it's life in a sense, and so I don't know if I answered your question, but I just soccer just makes me happy.
I love that.
That's a simple answer.
No, I love it. And you did answer the question. And I'm going back and thinking of like all the answers to that question. It's very different than what we normally get. And it may be my favorite answer to that question. And the reason being is like, it's so important for everyone listening. Like it was so simple of a moment, scoring a first goal. You probably can remember it. You probably can picture it in your mind. And even just seeing you smile there, I know you can because you're thinking about it. But for coaches, a lot of coaches listen to this. Parents, a lot of parents listen to this. Think about the impact that you might be having on a life of a kid, that it's changing their life just being on the field. And their family life is a wreck, or if they have all these other things going on. And don't just assume that everyone on your teams, wherever you're living, because I know I'm in Folsom, California, and I've had kids on my teams that if I didn't ask them about their life and understand who they were, I wouldn't understand that this game is everything to them. And to be able to have an impact on a kid like that is priceless. I mean, like it's so much. We say that on this show. It's why we do this show. It's so much bigger than the game. It's, I mean, it almost like stops being about the game. It's about life, and it's about how we can impact lives. That if it weren't for these, not just soccer, but these games that these kids can play to escape from some of the realities that are so brutal. So brutal. I mean, think about the guy from Ukraine. I mean, like, are you kidding me? To come and to be able to get on, imagine the joy in his life playing, kicking a ball, that ringing is like everything, when his life outside of that is just hell. So thanks for sharing that. That was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I always think, when I think of soccer and all ability and how it impacts people, I think of my friend Robert, who also was military, and he lost his leg in an accident, tank accident. And he's standing there telling me the story of losing his leg. And he's like, the worst thing was I couldn't play soccer anymore. And he's crying. He's like crying. And like, I lost soccer and I was suicidal, and I was ready to give up. And then someone told him amputee soccer, and he's like, and that's what saved my life. And soccer isn't just a sport. Really, as Nelson Mandela says, it transcends everything. It really does. It can take you out of your troubles, even just for a little while. It can, if you want to talk like the medical parts of it, bringing in, what it does to your body to get out there and work out, and, how it helps your body to be out there and moving, and all the dopamine and all those kinds of things. Even beside that, I think sports brings hope. Like, I can do this. And it doesn't matter what sport. I mean, there's ping pong is a sport, and that's, they have sitting volleyball. Like, if you can't stand, you can sit and play volleyball. Like,
I could play that.
Yeah, I know. I can even do that. So,
I don't think I could even do that. Honestly. It sounds really hard.
So I think, if you have a disability, there's a sport for you.
Yeah.
And you can, it's team again. It's getting out there and moving. It's having a purpose in a sport. And I think that it doesn't fix life,
Yeah.
but it takes you out of life for a bit.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And this might be the point where we could get into a debate of whether golf is actually a sport or not, but we won't go there. Because let's not do that. Let's not do that. Just kidding. In all of that, and I totally agree with you. I mean, just being active. I mean, my wife and I talk about this all the time. I mean, just for our own sanity, just being active and moving. And I think even the youth, that are just sitting so much and playing video games and things like that. I think we're seeing, mental health is a crisis. I think a lot because we're not moving enough and being active. And obviously as leaders, it's kind of our responsibility and coaches to make sure that we're influencing that in a positive direction. And
I will say before I don't, because I have some friends that are in the video sphere of things, and they're making a huge impact on these young kids. So now that is becoming their sport. Not everybody is real good with athleticism, but there's a multiply school going on right now in Portland for Go Games, and so they're impacting, on that side of things. So
yeah. No, and I'm not advocating everybody must be an athlete. I just think the movement of the body, and if somebody's sitting in front of a television screen all day long, there's definitely a place for all of that. I think it's fantastic. My kids are allowed to play video games, and so I'm not anti. But as
you're such a good dad, Paul.
Yeah,
you're such a good dad.
Yeah, just ask them; they'll tell you. But with all of that, as coaches and leaders and mentors, you look back at your life. You've mentioned a couple of people who've made made a massive impact in your life. Who are some other leaders in your life that have made a big impact, whether it's through athletics or ministry? And what are some life lessons maybe that they've kind of impacted you with or imparted on you as you have also led?
Well, I don't, the people that have impacted me the most are not leaders.
Okay.
They're just normal people living the life that God has given them. Jack and Miriam, who are, have been missionaries to Kenya forever and are now here in Portland doing, they have a nonprofit that is still impacting, Kenya,
They sound like leaders to me.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say.
Okay. I guess I should say they're
people of impact. Let's say people of impact.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. That is true. Yeah. So, but in my mind, they're not, they're so humble, and you wouldn't know what they do, like, unless you knew them. They're not, you wouldn't say that Jack and Miriam are, the normal, what people would say are leaders. So I don't consider them leaders, but yes, they are, and I think that helps me a lot because I know what a leader should look like. So I try to be as much like Jack and Miriam as I can, then Jody, who, Jody and Kaiser are my best friends, but they don't let me stay in depression or whatever. They make me a better person. Like they're not going to put up with my crybabiness. There's times we all want to be crybabies and just stay in bed, and they don't let me, I think, those are the people that really make you who you are, not necessarily a leader. But as a coach, I want to be like them. I want to be the encourager. I want to be the person that, gets my athletes out of bed every day to be better people, to make sure that they're healed, to make sure that they're making an impact on their world. Because I believe in even the smallest child can make an impact on those around them. And if we're teaching them from a small age to be better people and to bring something good to this world, then we're raising them up to be adults that do that, right? And that's part of coaching. Coaching is not just, I tell people you're not coach for 3 months during soccer season. You're coach. If you start coaching, you're a coach of that kid for the rest of their life. Like, you know, Andrew is the one kid that I've coached. Like, I started coaching him when I started coaching, like back in the day. He was one of my earliest kids, and I have mentored him through his life. He's now married. He's got his first first child that I call my grandbaby. I got to officiate his wedding. These are, you walk through life with kids. You don't just have them for 3 months. If that's your mindset, then you need to change your mindset as a coach, because these kids need you. They need you for the rest of their life. And they need to be able to, know that they can call you and say, "Hey, coach, give me some advice." I have kids that I haven't talked to in 5-10 years, and they're calling me asking for advice. That's what you want as a coach. That makes my heart happy to hear from someone I haven't heard from forever. I mean, I just got a text yesterday from some kids I haven't seen in probably a year. They want to have dinner next week, So those are the things that I feel impact lives. So if your kids are calling you 10 years, 15 years later, you're a good coach. You're doing what you should.
Absolutely. And I think in a podcast that is called How Soccer Explains Leadership and the things that we discuss on this, I think we could take that segment of what you just said there and post that. And that could be the statement of the year for us in this podcast and what we're trying to, I think some of the things that we're trying to get across here. I just absolutely love what you just said there. Wholeheartedly agree on all of that. There is nothing better than a message from a former player, especially the players that thought you were an idiot when they played for you. And then you hear from them like, "Hey, coach, those are great. Those are awesome." But I absolutely love what you said. From a leadership perspective, it is about influence. We talk about, it doesn't mean you have to be the loudest voice in the room, but how are you impacting young people? How are you impacting people in general? How are you impacting their lives? How are you influencing them to be better members of society and and then go and make disciples, right? So I absolutely love that. Thank you for those wise words. It's awesome.
That's so good. Yeah, we actually, over Christmas, we had a time around our table where we just said, who are the 2 or 3 people who impacted you the most? And my son, both my sons, and my son's friend who played soccer with them, all of them said their coach was one of those, one of those 3, which is we had to take out parents as like a given, even though I don't know that all my kids would have
Good
said
clarification.
that. But you like that? You liked how we did
Yeah.
that? We did that. We just said, we know your parents, of course. Other than that, who would it be? So it was good. It was good. But actually, I think it was one of the friends said their parents, and then we had to make the caveat for our kids. So anyway, so but yeah, no, I agree with Paul on that for sure. Like I love that. All right. So a few more questions, kind of finish up here. So I know people watching on the video are going to think, well, it should only have to go a couple of years back for this, but believe it or not, it's a few more years than that back on it. But the question is that, what lessons about life and leadership would you love to be able to go back in time and teach to your 25-year-old self? So, any like one like a lesson that you'd love to be able to like go, I wish I knew that.
Get out of yourself. Like, we can have an ego in sports, whether you're the athlete or the coach, right? We can think we're hot stuff, but being hot stuff doesn't impact people in the right direction. Being an encourager, being the voice that helps them to get to the next level that's what impacts lives. And so I was I've been cocky a lot of times in my life. So at 25, where was I at 25? I was still in the military. So I wasn't very cocky back then. But I would say maybe at 20, or, being in the World Cup as a, sophomore or junior in high school, or, coaching some of the teams that I've coached in the past. Like, I've been a bit cocky because I'm like, I'm good. I'm the coach, but that doesn't help anybody really. It doesn't impact lives. And so I think if I can go back to even my first years of coaching and be better at encouraging my athletes, I think I've done an okay job of that over the years. But there's times I get frustrated, just like every coach, and I'm not sure I'm very good at encouraging in those moments. So, yeah.
Good words. Good words. As Phil likes to say, all good things must come to an end. And we're kind of towards the end of our podcast, and I really enjoyed just getting to know you and your wisdom that you share with our friends and us. Phil and I are blessed and to be able to take advantage of the fact that we do a podcast where selfishly we learn a lot from it, and we've learned a ton from you today, and I appreciate that. But one of the last questions we'd love to ask everybody is what have you watched, read, or listened to that's most impacted your thinking on how soccer explains life and leadership? What's something you've watched, read, or listened to that's impacted that?
Watched, read, or listened to.
So it could be a movie, book, podcast, something that's really impacted your thinking on that.
Yeah, I mean, I love, those movies. They call them feel good movies, but the, Remember the Titans, or, any of those kinds of movies. I can't remember the basketball one that was the first college team that had full black team came out.
Oh, yeah. Glory Road.
Glory Road.
Glory Road,
Was
yeah.
an amazing, or Cool Runnings even, I love watching a movie where you see the coach, maybe they change over the course of the movie, and realize that how their coaching is not right, or how they motivate their team, Jamaica bobsledding, being courageous enough to have the first full black team, and the hardships that he dealt with, or, you remember the Titans, to lose your entire team and then come in and redo it, or, there's a bunch of those different movies. There's one where I can't remember the name of that one either, but where he was coaching the long distance runners. They were all Mexican, farm
McFarland.
workers. McFarland. Thank you for answering all my questions.
Nice job, Phil.
This is like trivia. I like
Yeah,
this. This is fun.
I
Trivia
love
hour.
watching those movies, and I love that those coaches motivated those kids to be better. They could have given up on all of their dreams as coaches. All of them could have, but they just kept pushing. And sometimes as a coach, that's what it takes. It takes, it takes you being better than yourself to get your team to where they're making, history. Yeah, our amputee team, being second in the world in the first World Cup, that's history. And we had the most viewership worldwide of any all ability group at that time. So other than like the Paralympics or anything, but just regular team, we had the most viewership. And that's amazing to me.
I love it. I love it. I love all those movies too. I
Kind
just like obviously, because I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's keep going on this fun game. The guy who was coaching the high school team and he measured the basket.
Hoosiers.
There you go. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's a fun. We'd probably get more viewers if we did
What about the
trivia on
robotic one? The one where he had a robotic team and he just like did it out of his classroom.
robotic team.
Yes. That was an amazing too.
Which one was? Do you know what it was?
No.
Oh. All right, folks.
I
Comments.
wouldn't-
Let's go. No, I
Children.
You'll say it and I'll know it probably. Robotic.
Yeah, I mean, he had to, he had huge
Okay.
diversity to a robotics team, like in the slums of,
Yeah.
so
All right.
yeah.
All right, folks. So robotics team movie. Let's get the comments flowing. Come back to us. All right. So thanks so much, Thuy. This was awesome. Loved it. Super grateful for you. Super grateful for just all you're doing for our friendship. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks. Well, with that, we are going to just finish up another great episode. Thanks again for being a part of the conversation. Thanks for just joining us and joining this hopefully movement to really do what Thuy was talking about, just impacting these lives. It's not about the X's and O's. It's not about just getting out there and winning games. It's so much about impacting lives and changing lives. And literally, like, this could be the thing that your kid has that gives them life. So with that, we just hope that you're using all that you're doing on this, listening to on this, and you're using it in your life. And if you want to learn more about Warrior Way and the stuff Paul and Marcy are doing in Guatemala, Costa Rica, Waco, all over, you can check that out on our show notes. Providence World, the stuff we're doing, the North American Sport Movement. You can check all that out in the show notes. And as always, we hope that you're taking what you're learning from this and you're using it to be a better coach, a better player, a better spouse, a better parent, a better teacher, better in all that you're doing. And you remember continually that soccer does explain life and leadership. Thanks a lot. Have a great couple weeks.